Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people, shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Grit. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Friday's tomorrow. It's June 27th, Thursday, and it is 8:13 a.m. We're going to get rolling this morning. I apologize for the late or the little delay here, but as you guys know, we've been battling with multiple different streaming services. I've been working about 5-6 hours a day on all of them, and we've got little hiccups. So Spectrum's coming out tomorrow to try to address what's going on with the internet. Something must be going on here. So dropped some coin last night, all new gear, went to Best Buy. So things should be fixed this weekend is my hope. I don't think that's really necessarily the problem with the streaming services. They've got their bugs, and for whatever reason, we can't fix their bugs. So we're back on Talk Studio this morning, so we won't have all of the different displays and everything else that we're trying to bring to the table, but it will be here for the season, I promise. That is a promise I will keep because I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure it gets done. But good morning, Eric. How you doing today? It's been a couple of days since we've been gone or since we've been on. So how are you doing, man? What's up? What's new?
I'm fantastic. And after that new intro, I'm ready to run through a wall for Dan Campbell. I tell you what, that's awesome, man. You did a really excellent job on that intro. I love it.
Yeah, it's one that I actually made for the All Grit podcast and just kind of tweaked it a little bit for this one. I like it too, man. I think it's too good not to use on all of the different channels. And if you guys haven't had a chance to check out the All Grit podcast, it's at the All Grit Pod on YouTube. Chef Talks Lions has joined Rocked On Podcast Network. He is part of the platform now, so he is doing a podcast over there. A lot of similar things that I do as far as, he's big into stats and analytics, but also he's really high on the eye test in taking what he sees on the field and, implementing that into his podcast and talking about real or realistic topics and trying to be a realistic fan. So check him out, the All Grit Pod on YouTube. Right now he's doing, I believe, Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then content every day is popping up. So this morning, we have a little bit of a roster for you. So Calvin Johnson speaks, and he spoke up about Jameson Williams. And I also found some things from Antoine Randle that I think will help shed some light on Jameson Williams this year. This is not a bash session on JMO. So JMO, please unblock me from Twitter. I've asked you numerous times. I mean, I don't know why you did in the first place, but come on, man.
He likes me.
So we're going to talk about JMO this morning. We're going to talk about the Lions having the 4th rated defensive line in the NFL. And that's a big mark. Quite honestly, I don't remember where they were last year. I haven't had a chance to really look it up, but I bet you we weren't in the top 10, probably not even sniffing the top 15. So what does that mean? And why are these media analysts and pundits and everybody else, why are they finally saying that the Lions have a good offensive line when you have a large collection of Lions fans that were not happy with what the Lions did this offseason? They felt like we had to address defensive ends and defensive ends only, and the Lions didn't do that. So they went the other direction. They went interior, and then they went to the backfield, which you guys know my position. I thought that was the right way to do it. I spoke to it before the draft, before the offseason, that you've got to shore up the biggest deficiency, and that was cornerback. 2 years in a row, they fixed that room, or tried to fix that room. Didn't come to fruition last year. This year, we're hoping something totally different. But why is that so important? We'll talk about when we get to the defensive line topic. And then I have a couple of things here, kind of the watch out list, I guess, if you will. What does each NFC North team need to watch out for heading into training camp? And kind of get your thoughts and expectations, anything that you've maybe heard or seen, throughout this offseason as to what the NFC North teams still have in front of them that they need to fix, or, have they fixed heading into this season? So right away, let's welcome in the chat, Eric. Who do we have this morning?
All right. Let's see. We got a Illini MCG. We got Tracy, as always. We got kneecap biting guy, Randy P. Let's see who else we got. Ryan Van Valkenburg, Casey, King SJ. Let's see, Big Moose 88, Shane Smith, J-Rod. Hey, J-Rod, what's going on this morning, my friend? Roger Chappis and Boo Booth. Whoever Boo Booth, that's a new one I haven't seen. Bubba Bowie. Okay, that's a new one. And Michael Garrity. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, so if there's anyone that we missed, obviously it's not done by purpose.
They're chatting it up.
King SJ in the house. He's in with us this morning. The Illini MCG must be a Bears fan. Good morning, and even if you aren't a Bears fan, whatever. The Illini is what's tipping me off there. John Doe's in the house. Chef Talks Lions just woke up, apparently, or still up, should I say, in Australia.
Yeah.
Bubba Bowie. That is an interesting name. So if you guys are new, appreciate you guys coming into the Rocked On Detroit Lions off the cuff and or the Rise and Grind morning show this morning. Please do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Smashing that like button is what helps us the most. And we'll be doing giveaways every 500 subscribers, and it could happen this morning. So if you're in, you can win. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I get the itch to let it go. First mini helmet of the season in the new mini helmet giveaway. We got 24 mini helmets signed by Panay Sewell and Chris Spielman that we're giving away. So follow the channel, subscribe to the channel. The only way that you'll know if you can win is if your notifications are turned on. Before we get to the first topic here, Calvin Johnson speaks up on Jameson Williams. Do us a favor and check out sportspider.com. That is sportspyder.com. Get all of your sports in one place. And I literally mean that. It's everything from baseball, basketball, football, all the way down to snowboarding, UFC, MMA. I mean, everything. They have it all. Podcasts, articles, you name it. Rocked On Podcast Network is a featured network on their website. Check them out. They do an excellent job. Dallas has really put together an amazing website. So sportspider.com. Check them out. Amazing sponsor. Thank you, SportsSpider. All right. So Calvin Johnson. First, I'm going to probably touch on Antoine Randle, but Williams is expected to compete, which I don't think is any surprise, as the number 2 wide receiver in Ben Johnson's offense. This is what we expected from day one, and it did not come to fruition in season 1. Obviously, he was hampered by the ACL and coming back, what was about a 12-month recovery. Had very limited, opportunity that season. And then the next season, he was hampered by gambling suspension. And I think that the culmination of those two things, and I've spoken about this many times, is what really limited what really limited Jameson Williams from being an impactful player, as impactful as he should have been last season. And the reason is simple: continuity, being able to gel with your quarterback, developing that timing relationship. If you don't know, now you know. The offense that Ben Johnson has put together with Jared Goff and Dan Campbell and the other powers that be is a timing offense. Now you have to be at a specific spot at a certain time. You have to run the right route. Can't freelance. You've got to be there, and you have to be unselfish, and you have to be ready. Those are just a few of the things that go into the making of a wide receiver in the NFL. But in this offense, which is a very powerful or high power quick, fast-paced style of offense, the ball's coming out quickly. Jared Goff is getting the progression 1 to 4 if there's 4 options on that play quickly, 3 seconds or less. So if he's not there, he's not getting the ball. And we've seen it, we've heard it from other analysts, scouts that I've had on the show that have talked about Jameson Williams as a freelancer, and that might have been some of the issues as to why JMO wasn't getting the ball as often as he should have. But more importantly, it's the continuity level. The relationship between him and Jared Goff just didn't grow. Not saying that they don't have a personal relationship. It's the on-field relationship. So this year, we're expecting much more. Full offseason, no injuries to speak of right now. He's putting some work in, according to Dan Campbell. He said he was a man on a mission this offseason. So we're expecting a lot more out of JMO. And now we don't have Josh Reynolds. So let's kind of dig into it. As the Detroit Lions really gear up for the 2024 season, and training camp is here in just about 4 weeks, Jameson Williams really finds himself at a pivotal juncture in his career. He is entering what is his 3rd season after being selected number 12 overall in the 2022 NFL Draft. Williams' performance this year could be a determining factor in the Lions' push for a playoff berth and the ultimate Super Bowl. But we've got to make the playoffs first, right? I think that's the first goal. But here's why Williams needs to really step up, in my opinion, and deliver a standout season compared to what he's done in the past. And I think that the comparison level starts with Josh Reynolds. So he has increased expectations. And I guess before I get to all of that, is there anything that just comes to your mind, Eric, as to JMO and kind of what's gone on between day one and now, and kind of what's on your mind about JMO? Like what are you expecting from him to start in training camp?
Yeah. So when JMO came in, there's all this drama about his injury and then the gambling suspension. It was just too much hoopla. Things needed to calm down a bit. And what JMO did this offseason is he went down to Florida with Teddy Bridgewater, and he worked all winter long with Teddy Bridgewater down in Florida. And Teddy's being a high school coach and helping JMO mature and helping him with his routes. Because if you remember back to the NFC Championship game and the game before, JMO ran a couple of comeback routes. And with his kind of speed, you're doing that. That's fantastic. And then if he can get the rest of the route tree down and start doing the things that Tyreek Hill does, not just being just the burner guy, but getting the rest of the route tree down, that is going to make him the definite number one, or not number one, but number 2. What we need him to be is a 1A, 1B with St. Brown. Wouldn't that be fantastic instead of us worrying whether he's even going to be a good number 3 or 4? And something that Williams said, he said, I think I've matured a lot. Coming into the league, I still had some childish ways. Wanted to do that, I wanted to do. Wanted to do what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. Sometimes you got to listen and just be on the right track. Follow the right path, and you'll be down the right way. He is maturing. He's finally figuring it out. It's starting to click. And watch out, NFC North. That's what you need to watch out for right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. That's part of this morning's conversation is what has happened from year 1 to now year 3. And maturity is a big part of that. So not only the continuity level between him and Jared Goff and the relationship in building these timing routes and the offense together and trust. I mean, that is the most important 5-letter word in Jared Goff's vocabulary. He needs to trust you. He built that trust with Amon-Ra St. Brown pretty quickly in season 1 with Amon-Ra, even though Brown didn't kind of come to life until like the last, 7 games or so of the season in 2021. It just took a minute for them to click. So we should have expected the same thing with Jameson Williams last year, that, maybe 7-8 games under their belt, they would start to click. But what you just mentioned, maturity and him doing what he wants to do, that speaks to what? Freelancing. And maybe he was admitting that he was a little bit of a freelancer. And then you also mentioned some comeback routes. When JMO was accepting passes from Bryce Young, the dude was just running and Bryce was just chucking the ball up and it was just go get it. College, way different than the NFL. The absolute best corner that you're going to face in college is the worst corner that you're going to face in the NFL. So for that reason, he needed to mature and kind of get out of his own head a little bit, kind of tamper his own, expectations, if you will, and just play ball. Just fit into this team somewhere and have a role. And that's what Dan Campbell speaks about too, is we just need you to have an identified role and just do your job. It's something that you talk about, Eric, quite a bit. Do your job. Dan Campbell preaches it all the time. If you can just come in and be unselfish, don't worry about stats, do the work that the team needs you to do, not what you need to do. Not only will you get paid if you perform, but you're going to help this team win. And the ultimate goal is winning a Super Bowl, not 20 touchdowns and 2,000 yards. That's not the ultimate goal for each player. It's a Super Bowl. And I think that we have those type of players. I think that those are the individuals that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have fought so hard to keep and to find are the players that are more concerned about winning as a team than they are individually. So he definitely has increased expectations this year. So coming off a 2023 season where he showed flashes of brilliance, including scoring 2 crucial or critical, if you will, touchdowns in the NFC Championship game, Jameson Williams is now expected to really elevate his game in 2024. Dan Campbell has described, Williams as a man on a mission this year. He's bulked up a little bit. Now he's not crazy big, but he bulked up a little bit, which he's going to need. He's going to need that strength. And this is part of what Calvin Johnson will speak to too, is he really needs this strength to get through the season. Everything that he's doing now is going to help him, in January. So to become a primary offensive weapon or even a secondary offensive weapon, this sentiment is really echoed across the organization with all players, highlighting the significant role that Williams is anticipated to play. He's not played it yet. He's anticipated to play a very significant role. I think the biggest problem, or maybe it's not really a problem, the biggest hurdle for Williams this year is going to be the competition and target share. When we talk about relationships, man, did Jared Goff get off to a good one with Sam Laporta last year? Mm-hmm. And that's where I get sick and tired of people talking crap about Jared Goff and being a bridge QB and, just not a good QB overall, not in the top 5 and wouldn't be able to do it on any other team. And, you've heard me preach about it. Look, you want a good offensive line. You want a good running game. You want weapons on your offense. I mean, how else do you expect to win? It's hardly ever, if ever, has a team won a Super Bowl that doesn't have a top 5 offense or a top 5 defense. I mean, the numbers are there. It's proven. I think it's happened twice, where you haven't had one or the other. So you want those things. But Williams faces a very stiff competition for targets in an offense that is loaded with talent. In 2023, Amon-Ra St. Brown and tight end Sam Laporta combined for an impressive 284 targets. Between two guys, 284 targets. Completely dominated the pass game. Between the two of them, they put up over 2,400 yards, I think, between the two of them, over 2,400. And now you have a Jahmyr Gibbs, who last season we expected to explode in that area too. We expected him to have a bigger game in the passing game. It didn't really come to fruition, but I wouldn't say it was a failure. He had 71 targets in his rookie season as a running back. And he's also expected to see an expanded role. So you got 3 guys, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, that between the two of them, 355 targets last year. That's a ton. So Williams has to carve out a role, right? He has to carve out his own targets. And how do you do that? Well, he has to prove himself as a reliable, explosive, trustworthy option for Jared Goff. Trust is key. Keyword. It is the biggest 5-letter word, like I've said. Goff has to trust J-Mo. And I think that he does. I think that Goff has even said as much, that they're building, right? They're working together. And he sees the work that J-Mo's putting in. So to really get an understanding of kind of what's at stake here, this training camp and this season, not only for the Detroit Lions that lost Josh Reynolds, which I know that there's mixed reviews on Josh Reynolds, but I'll be very blunt with it. He was probably the most consistent reliable, outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, the most consistent and reliable option for Jared Goff since they came to Detroit. You could count on Reynolds to get you that 17-yard catch and a first down. It happened multiple times last year. It's happened numerous times throughout the last 3 seasons. And that's why Josh Reynolds was so important to this offense. And I didn't want to see him go. But now it's time for JMO. I mean, this is what they were planning on. They were planning on the day that Reynolds was going to be gone and they needed to secure the number 2 spot. So to get an understanding of really what's at stake, I want to look at a quote first by Antoine Randle L, and then we'll get into Calvin Johnson. So a quote from Randle L really sums up what the Lions are missing in 2024 and what they expect after losing Josh Reynolds. And he says this: the biggest thing was we know what we lost in Josh Reynolds. He had some big playability, but he was consistent. He was a consistent guy that we could depend on. So that's what I need our guys to be. Not just the 3rd, 4th, 5th guy, whoever it is. Even Saint and JMO from that standpoint, we always want to be consistent in what we do and have an opportunity to make those plays. But that 3rd guy, whoever it's going to be, and again, a 4th and a 5th guy, those guys have got to be consistent. So based on that quote from Randle L, and looking back on JMO's past couple of seasons, what's your initial thought there?
I think that they're setting it up for JMO and the other wide receivers to step up their game, be a little bit more mature, and take this role, maybe not all by themselves, but partially, each person taking a little bit of Josh Reynolds' role. So it's not all on one person. So it's not all just JMO is going to take all these catches on 3rd down that Josh Reynolds was going to get. It's going to be Sam Laporta. It's going to be St. Brown. It's going to be JMO. And you got to think about it. Who the hell are the DBs going to cover when you have St. Brown, Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and JMO all on the field all at the same time on 3rd down when it's 3rd and 3 and you need 3 yards? Who they're going to cover? That's just nuts.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be tough.
Fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Watch out NFC North, because
watch out NFL.
Yeah. You can't sleep on these guys anymore. And the fact that you can't sleep on them anymore, we won the division. It's going to be much tougher this year. People are going to really game plan for us. They're going to work extra hard to try to beat us this year. We are the hunted. We are no longer the hunters. We are the hunted now. I'm telling you.
Hey, that's all right. Hey, you know what? Hyenas like to hunt lions all the time, and they don't win very often. You got to be crafty, right? Right, Chris Spielman? Yep. You got to work at your craft. So you got to be a little sneaky.
Yeah, we got to get working at the craft here.
Yeah, that's right. So a couple comments here. And by the way, when I ask Eric a question, the same question applies to the chat. So if I'm asking anyone a question when you guys are in, just please answer it in the comments and give us your thoughts and opinions. I'd like to highlight, a few, every morning. We're going to be bringing some different styles of content, by the way, as we get rolling. I have a book that's just loaded with ideas and things that we're going to do. It relies on the software to work to be able to do it. I think you guys are going to like the new background when we get it launched, hopefully next week. But so anyway, there's a couple of comments in here. Bo Booth says situation dependent for Leaf and DPJ. Kneecap biting thinks that the bigger competition here is for wide receiver 3A and B, DPJ and Khalif Raymond, which is all valid points too. But the good news is what I thought was a very thin wide receiver room, I still feel is a little thin, only because we haven't seen what DPJ is able to do. And we've seen what he was able to do in 2022 with the Browns, but we didn't see it last year. But I think that speaks to the same thing that JMO's up against, right? You've got to have the trust from Jared Goff. You have to have time, full off season, full training camp with Jared Goff, which he has this year. And I think that we're going to see a different DPJ this year too. So everything that I'm saying about JMO, it really can echo to DBJ as well. Khalif has been around. We know what Khalif can do. I think that, he's always got a spot, and he's fairly consistent and reliable too. He's on the short end. He's really short, actually. I think he's like 5'9" or 5'8", speedy guy, but he can make plays too. I just saw a play the other day that he caught out of the backfield, and guy's fast, man. He's electric to watch. So everyone has a role, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And those roles are going to be well defined in training camp, but I think it's a good problem to have when you have sticky competition. I would have loved to have seen another high profile rookie or, a 4 or 5 year vet added to this team. And we still might, we don't know yet. We still might, especially after 53-man cuts happen. There could be some good players available that maybe Brad doesn't want to pass up on. So when we talk about statistical expectations, given the fact that Antoine Randle L is saying that, Josh Reynolds was a, big key, big loss. Do me a favor. Could you pull up Josh Reynolds' stats if you get a second for 2023? I think he had about 650 yards or something like that.
Sure.
But statistical expectations for Jameson. The 2024 season really presents an opportunity for Williams to significantly boost that output. And the more playing time and a larger role that he can carve in this offense, he could potentially increase his receptions, his yardage, his touchdowns, whatever. His late season surge in 2023 was a very promising indicator of what he can achieve with consistent targets and opportunities. Here's the warning for me, though. We can't really get flirted with the big plays here, or here and there, I should say. We need a consistent 4, 5, 6 catch game that gets the ball downfield for first downs, or, plays that really help the offense, in moving the ball downfield. And you got some TDs sprinkled in, here or there, right? But the big play one week and then again the next week are very fun to watch. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love watching them. He had some amazingly big plays last year that were fun to watch. Just don't do the Superman, please. Don't want you hurt. But consistent playmaking is the only thing that matters. So I don't know if you get what I'm saying here, but we don't want flash in a pan, right? We want consistency. And I say we, me, I want to see consistency. But Antoine Randle L just told you too. They want consistency. So if you got guys that just, catch one ball for 40 yards and that's all they do that game, and maybe it goes for a touchdown. And then the next game, they catch 2 balls for 60 yards. But that's it. That's flashy, right? That's not consistency. I'd rather see him get 4, 5, 6 catches on, 8, 9 targets. That would be a terrible catch rate, but you know what I'm saying. In getting 12, 14, 16 yards a clip, even a 7, 8, 9 yard, reception in there for a first down. The gritty plays underneath that we really need to develop with JMO, not just this downfield boundary stuff that he's so accustomed to doing. Now, don't get me wrong. If Laporta can eat in the middle and the shorter zones, and Amon-Ra can eat over the middle and the boundary and the shorter zones, okay, those are pretty well covered. Jahmyr Gibbs can do the same thing. Yeah, well, then Jameson Williams obviously can be that boundary X guy that can get downfield and be a downfield threat and kind of spread the ball, or spread the field, if you will. And Jared Goff can then spread the ball around. But at the same time, let's not be flirted with big plays. I want to see him kind of putting in that work every single week that's helping this offense. I want him to be sticky in that stat line, 4, 5, 6 catches, 50, 60, 70, 80 yards a game. That to me would show that he's arrived if he can have that kind of a season, which would flirt him with about 1,000 yards. So you got stats for me?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so what did Josh have last year?
In 2023, he had 40 receptions for 608 yards, 15.2 per reception, and 5 touchdowns.
Say it one more time.
So you got 40 receptions, 608 yards for an average of 15.2 per reception, and 5 touchdowns.
Okay, so 40 catches. I don't remember how many games he played. Did he play all games? Do you know?
Let me see. Full stats.
So that's about 2.35 catches per game.
Yeah, it's not showing.
Over 17 games. I assume that's just regular season and not postseason stats.
Yeah. This is just regular season stats.
So, I mean, that's consistent work. I just don't know how many games he played. I would love to see Jameson be better than that. But at the same time, I mean, that's what we're looking for. You know, we need someone that can come in and fill in that role. So he's got to get about 800 yards, you know, this season to really fill that role in my opinion.
Says he played 17 games.
Okay. I thought he missed some, but all right. So Antoine Randle had another quote, and it's kind of a long one. But this is what he had to say, and then we're going to get into Calvin. He said that the excitement comes in that the door is wide open for those spots. The excitement, it's there because there's competition that's really, truly going on for that spot. So you've seen some guys really make some plays that kind of raise your eyebrows, like, let's try to move them up. Darius Fountain made some plays. Caden Davis made some plays. I was like, okay. So you see these guys making different plays and splashes. And that's another word I think that kind of echoes Jamo's splashy. You know, he makes the splash, flashy type plays, not always consistent. They've got to be ready to make plays over and over again. That's the biggest thing. Alignment, assignment, make the play when it comes your way and being able to finish. We block downfield, whether it's the running back that has the ball is thrown, the receivers catch it, the tight ends catch it. We've got to go get blocks. That's a big emphasis for me, continuing to move forward as we get ready for training camp here in the weeks to come. So all great points by you know, Antoine Randle. I don't think that we worry too much about Jamo and his blocking. I think that he showed last year that he's willing to stick his nose in and get dirty, and he's made the plays. I mean, he made that one big block on Montgomery's 75-yard touchdown in the Chargers game. And the fact that he's able to get downfield and get ahead of the running back because he was so fast. I mean, those are the unique things that he can do that not every other wide receiver can do. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I highlighted a reel on the Facebook page where you see Amon-Ra St. Brown just getting in there, getting dirty at the line of scrimmage. That's what Antoine Randle wants out of these guys. Not just to be a ball catcher, not just to be a receiver, not just to go out there and run routes and kind of just, you know, die off at the end if the ball doesn't come to you. No, go find someone to hit. Go find someone to block. You never know if that ball's coming back around the other way. And if that was Barry Sanders back there with the ball, Lord knows he would go east and west more than he would go north and south. So you never knew where the ball was going to pop out when he had the ball in his hand. So I expect some of the same things out of Jahmyr Gibbs this year. Skill set and strategic importance kind of up next for Jamo. Look, he's got elite vertical speed that sets him apart. That's no secret. I don't think that he's lost any step after his ACL. I think he's only getting better. He's really offering the Lions a deep threat capability that we've been missing, honestly, in my opinion, since Calvin Johnson. I don't think that we've really had an elite deep threat that was consistent. Now, Calvin Johnson was an extremely rare dude. We'll never probably see another wide receiver in the NFL like that, or at least I haven't yet. DK Metcalf is probably about the only one that compares, but nowhere close to what Calvin was. Nowhere close. But we need someone like Jamo that can stretch defenses, create opportunities for other playmakers as well. And by him stretching the field, that kind of opens up parts of the field. You know, once DBs turn their backs and run, you've got a zone open where someone can sink in, do that little curl route, you know, and take the ball and run for 10 or 12 or more. But his ability to really break big plays was evident last year. We've seen it multiple times. Again, the big splashy, flashy type of plays towards the end of the season and even in the NFC Championship game. So it's really positioning him as a very key or strategic asset for the Detroit Lions offense this year. As the Lions aim to build a more dynamic and high-scoring offense, Williams' knack for making critical plays downfield is going to be needed. The biggest question is, how can Jameson Williams get there? Well, that really relies upon the player. And to take the offseason very seriously, and that's where Calvin Johnson comes in. Before I get into Calvin, any words?
Yeah, so there's one thing that not a lot of people talk about with Jameson Williams, and that's contested catches. He had 17 targets that he could have possibly caught on contested throws, and he only got 6 contested catches, only 6 of them. So this year, if he can double or triple what he did in contested catches, that would be that much better for him. That just it would build the confidence in Goff that when he throws the ball his way, he's going to catch it, because that was Josh Reynolds' big thing. He would catch the contested ball that was in a super tight window. You got the DB going up to try to grab it as well, and Reynolds would come down with the ball almost every time. That is one of the biggest things I think that J-Mo needs to add to his game, is going up and saying, that's my ball, not your ball, taking it away from the defender. If the defender is going to intercept it, take it away from him. And he did it once or twice in the playoffs, and I thought that was really awesome. So working on the contested catches is, I think, going to be one of the biggest things for J-Mo this year.
You know who really excels at that? DPJ.
Yeah.
DPJ is probably one of the best at contested catches. Last year, when we brought in DPJ, I did a video on him, and it highlighted his ability to contest, high point the ball, fight for the ball. And he'll learn a lot. J-Mo will learn a lot from DPJ this season as they go through this training camp, because he is somebody that, in my opinion, he plays like a basketball player. Box out drill.
Mm-hmm.
We used to run the box out drill in wide receiver group back in, when I played. But it was funny because we had a lot of basketball players on our team at one point, and the box out drill is something that you do in basketball. But learning how to box out and position your body is half the battle. Like that's half the battle in the NFL. Just where does your body need to be positioned to be able to make the play? But learning how to box out is critical, and I think DPJ does that really well. So I'm excited to see, what J-Mo can learn this year.
Yeah.
All right, so Calvin Johnson.
With J-Mo, there's got to be more than just being fast.
Right.
Entire route
given
and contested catches.
Given Brad Holmes' keen eye, for good players, I can only imagine that there has to be more than just speed here. And I think that we've seen more than just speed. But. All right, so Calvin Johnson had this to say. You've got to put the work in this offseason. You've got to build your body up and sustain a 16 to 17-week season. The work comes in the offseason. The work comes right now. The time he has off right now, you've got to put in the work. And then you've got to focus on the details, the little details. You've got to look yourself in the mirror, the things you are good and bad at, and work at those things. I think that is a repetitive and impactful quote. I mean, he's kind of repeating the same thing over and over. Put the work in, put the work in, put the work in. I don't think it's an indictment on J-Mo. I don't think that he's saying that J-Mo's not putting the work in. I think he's reinforcing the fact here that this is J-Mo to do. This isn't Ben Johnson. This isn't Dan Campbell. This isn't the wide receiver coach Antoine Randle. This is J-Mo. He's got to put the work in. He's got to face the hard fact in the mirror and say, I suck at this. I need to go and do this while I'm not in camp or in practice. I need to go work on this while I'm not being watched by Dan Campbell and everybody else. The old adage kind of says, when they're not watching, what are you doing? And then that's something that is really important at in anything you do in life. I mean, if you're trying to be successful at anything in life, and you're not the leader of whatever you're doing, right? And even if you are the leader, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, what are you doing when they're not watching? Well, Amon-Ra's over there catching 202 balls every day after practice. So J-Mo, go catch 203. Go one up the best guy on the team right now, because clearly that's what's worked for him. So a lot of drops last year from J-Mo early in the season. And I felt like that was a product of him not getting enough practice prior to that, right? not putting in the work. He said he was catching 100 balls a day on the jugs machine while he was at home. And I kind of balked at it. And I think I was critical, and that's probably why I got blocked, but I was kind of critical about it because I'm like, look, man, you're at home, you can't practice. So not only are you missing all the balls that are getting tossed your way during practice, but then you're not doing the extra work to get better. You're a number 12 overall pick in the NFL. You need to act like it. And those are some of the things that I was saying last year. And rightfully so. I don't think that I was wrong in saying that. I would have, if it were me and I had that ability and I was able to get that kind of a check, knowing that I just lost all of my guaranteed money, I would have been like, yep, you're damn right. I'm going to go catch 303 balls a day, 403, until my hands hurt. I don't want to hurt my hands, but you get the point. So the work right now, JMO has to put in the work. It's on him to look hard in the mirror and make those assertions as to what he's good at, what he's bad at, but still work on both. And then Calvin said this. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've got JMO. You've got Khalif. We've got Donovan Peoples-Jones. We've got guys who have made plays in this league. We've got guys who have played with Jared Goff for a while, that have been here in Detroit, that know what is expected. So that's a good thing. We have chemistry. That's the big thing about it. We have a receiving core that knows their roles, and they play to them. As long as those guys stay healthy, that's always the thing. We have that core group. If 3 or 4 of those guys stay healthy all year, Jared's going to have somebody to get the ball to, and they're going to move the ball up and down the field. So I think that this was a great, presence by Calvin Johnson. I think I had one more quote here. A great presence by Calvin Johnson to, kind of accentuate what the Lions are doing right now and what this wide receiver room is capable of doing. But also putting the onus on the player. And I don't think he's calling, like I said, I don't think he's calling out JMO specifically. I think that he's just saying that, look, if you want this guy to be great, if he wants to be great, then you have to go above and beyond. And it's up to you to do that. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 16 receivers selected ahead of him, and he was pissed off, man. He put a boulder on that shoulder, and he went to work. And look what happened. And I think that JMO should feel secure enough to know, look, if I go put the work in, and I work my tail off for this team, maybe I'll get paid too. Now, it doesn't always have to be about the almighty dollar, but that's a big part of why these guys go to work every day. But it's time to, what they say, nut up or shut up, right? It's time for him to put the work in and go prove why he should be the number 2. Because I'll tell you right now, he's got to beat out Sam Laporta. He has to, for target share. I think he can. And I know Chef Talks Lions loves, JMO and his ability. And look, I'm a believer in JMO. I just need him to show it this year. And I think that he will. I think that he really will. I think that we have too many weapons on this offense where he can't not have success. I think that, he just has to put the work in, especially like Calvin Johnson said. So quick words on that. And then I've got some other quotes here about Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. So like looking in the chat, this is what I'm taking away from everything is that JMO, Antoine Green, and DPJ all need to do just what you were talking about. Nut up or shut up. It is time to put your cards on the table and play your hand. It is time now. We don't need another season to season these guys. We need these 3 players to step up right now. And one or two of them is going to, maybe all 3 of them will, and they'll be our 2, 3, and 4 wide receivers. It'd be great. I would love it if all 3 of them came in and had incredible off seasons, incredible preseasons, incredible preseason games, and we hit the ground running into the season. I just don't know if all 3 of them will. I don't know enough about Antoine Green. I don't know enough about DPJ. I do believe that JMO is going to have a breakout season this year. I really, really believe on offense, he's going to be the one person that does have quite a breakout. And it might not be, all Pro Bowl type of year. It might be 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's fine. That's more than what Reynolds did, and that's what we need. We need to make up for what Reynolds was doing for us. We need just a little bit more than what Reynolds was doing for us. And whether that's just from JMO or from 2 or 3 players, that's fine. Either way, it's fine with me. As long as we're getting the production, we're getting the wins, and we're winning the NFC North, we're getting back into the playoffs, and we have a shot to go to the Super Bowl, I'm happy.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you look at our wide receiver room and you talk about being the hunted or hunting, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the one that is being hunted right now. So you have to plan for every team now to come out and scheme towards Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the problem that they're going to find out pretty quickly is you can't attack Amon-Ra St. Brown and then leave Laporta open. Okay, let's say you're successful in being able to corral both of those guys a little bit, and maybe they only have 80% of what they did last year. You know, maybe their output is only 80%. So maybe Laporta only puts up 800 yards, and maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown only puts up 1,100 yards. Okay, so the combination of that, that 500 yards, who's going to make up for that? Well, that's where DPJ, Khalif Raymond need to pick up the bottom, and where JMO needs to step up. And that 800 yards, I think, is a baseline number for JMO. I think that has to be the minimum that he gets this year to be able to affect, the dropout that we're probably going to have. Look, putting up 1,000 yards for a first-year tight end is insane. To back it up and do it again year 2, I mean, that'd be completely uncanny. It's not done very often, if ever. So I don't have the exact stats on that, but I would be willing to bet that it probably hasn't been done or been done very few and far between. Like maybe less than 3 or 4 tight ends in the history of the NFL have probably done it. So I don't expect Sam Laporta to come out and have another 1,000-yard season. Not saying that he can't do it, just saying I don't expect it based on the statistical figures, and trends. It just doesn't support it. So that means that someone has to step up. And I would say that, Jared Goff is probably one of the best at spreading the ball out. I've seen games where he's hit 10 guys with a ball. We've had 10 guys catch a ball, which is insane to me. But it can be done. You've got all 5 wide receivers, all 3 tight ends, both running backs, and even an offensive lineman catching a ball, and you get 9 or 10 guys that touch a ball in a game. So Goff can do it. So that means that DPJ, where does he slot in? I think he's got to have no less than 500 yards this year. Khalif Raymond, where does he slot in? No less than 500. I think 500 yards has to be the bench line for all of these guys. But then again, you have to look at the offensive play schemes and how many snaps are they really going to get, because we primarily run 2 or 3 wide receiver sets. So it's going to be an interesting season. I think that JMO can do it. I think that this is the year that he has to do it. He has 2 more seasons after this year under contract. I do not expect him to get paid any sort of an extension. I think that, even if he had a great year this year, the Lions aren't going to do anything, at least until his 5th-year option, to assess where he's really at. That's just my personal opinion. Again, it's not an indictment on JMO, but I think that, when you look at the money and you look at the wide receiver room and everything overall, I don't think that JMO is going to get anywhere near sniffing an extension until he puts a couple of really good seasons together. And that starts this year, JMO. Starts this year. Look, we can't be mad at JMO. He went through a lot. I mean, he made some of his own hay last year by gambling. I think that had a profound impact on his season. And in this year, we won't have that issue. So he's got to play all 17 games plus the playoffs and be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
Last quote here.
Having JMO's like having a kid that is really good, but he got in trouble because he hung out with the wrong kids. And he's on
guilty by association.
Yeah, he's guilty by association. Whatever, made a mistake. He's on probation. And everybody looks down on him because he's on probation, right? And this kid can be good, and the kid's at the point where he can either take the road to the left or the road to the right, where he can be consistent and good and keep his nose clean and do the right things, or he can go the other way. So I don't think the Lions will offer him a contract. I think they are going to pick up his 5th-year option, and then they'll talk after that. That's the way I see that rolling out for sure.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. And that's not an indictment on JMO. It's just the facts right now. I mean, I think that he's got to do something before he earns something, right? I mean, I think that the Lions aren't shy to admit that.
No, and the Lions are going to be careful with him.
So the last quote by Calvin, he talks about Dan Campbell, and this is one of many quotes about Dan Campbell that have come from Calvin Johnson, but he was talking about Dan, the coach, and he says, man, it's good. I played with Dan. I'm so happy for Dan. He was a great teammate. Seeing him leading this team like he is now, leading the charge, it's pretty cool. What Dan Campbell has been able to do is nothing short of incredible. The fact that he's a former player for the Lions, the second former player to become a head coach. Joe Schmidt was the first. I think it's just incredible to watch this really unfold. And the players respect the crap out of Dan. That's what it's all about. That's why this team is where it is. And I'm not saying that former Lions coaches didn't have the respect to the players. I don't think Patricia ever did. But I mean, I think that they genuinely respected their coach at the very beginning, and it's how you handle things after the fact that help your team progress in the fashion that this team is. This organization has done a complete 180 inside 3 seasons, and now heading into year 4, Super Bowl contenders. I mean, last year that was flirted a little bit, that the Lions would have a shot to even make the playoffs. But now legit Super Bowl contenders by year 4? I mean, come on. Did someone actually pinch me and I've awoken to see this unfold? Because never did I think that it was going to happen. Now, if you were to talk to my father every year, he'll tell you every year that we're going to have a great season and win a lot of games and go to the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. But that's just the, that's just the fan. And being a season ticket holder for as many seasons as my family has, over 60 years, and currently with these new accounts over 24 years, it's just part of being a Lion, man. You've got to believe. And I think that's the one thing that, about myself personally is I've always believed. I've never been SOL, but I'm realistic. And I don't want realism to be confused with SOL, because there's a defining line there. There's some fans that are just always negative. Everything is always a problem. And unless you can really look at all the facts and understand what's happening and actually read and study the team like we do daily, it's kind of hard to make sense of what some fans say sometimes. But sometimes you just got to let it go, man. You just got to turn a new leaf, wake up on the other side of the bed for once, and just try to forge a different path, and just believe right now. The Lions need our support. They really do. And we're going to continue to support them the best way we can. I will be realistic. Don't get me wrong. I will be realistic. And there's going to be streams you don't like or videos you don't like, but I don't think I would be doing a good job if I didn't do the entire job. So anything you want to say before I get on to the watch out list for 2024 NFC North teams?
Yeah, it can't be all roses and butterflies all the time. You got to be real once in a while. And listen, I really hope that Dan Campbell stays true to himself. And I don't even need to hope, because I know this is what he's going to do. He's going to stay true to himself. He's going to go for it on 4th down when he wants to go for it, whether we have a kicker that can kick it 70 yards and Jake Bates or not. And that might infuriate some fans. But to me, that makes me happy that he's not going to change who he is just because of 1 or 2 players that we bring in. Right. And he has such respect in that locker room, and he's earned it. He hasn't just forced it. He's earned it. Some coaches force respect, like the guy that was with the Patriots for so long. That was more of a, you're under my thumb all the time, right? Well, Dan Campbell doesn't put his players under his thumb. He puts his arm around them and talks to them like a man and gets things out of them that I don't think a whole lot of other coaches could get out of players, especially players that are lower on the depth chart or someone that another team might not see as a starter, but Dan Campbell sees him as a starter. And I absolutely love the way he coaches. I love his whole concept of fourth down play. And between him and Brad, I think there's so much on the same page that we're going to see something really, really awesome this year. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fun. And I can't wait for the preseason. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be in for a nice little ride here. And I think we're going to go a lot deeper than what a lot of people and analysts and, everybody else, that wants to poo-poo on the Lions.
Yeah.
Look, we're here. We've arrived, and it's not often that we've been able to say that, but we're here, and we're going to continue to fight and claw and scratch to stay relevant. And I think that's the biggest difference here between teams of the old, the past teams, and now. It's different. It's different in Motown. I said that last year, a little viral post that I did. I said it was different. And the Lions were good for business. That they're good for NFL business, and they are. Highest grossing ticket sales last year. Broke all sorts of ticket records, and that's great for NFL business. So if you think that the NFL doesn't want the Lions to do well, they finally do. I'm not saying that the refs are going to agree, but I think that now the NFL has recognized that, man, the Lions do well, the NFL does well. So how do we continue that trend? We need better officiating because I think the officiating has been one of the biggest issues. So I'm going to drop a couple of links in the chat right now. Again, if you guys have not visited the All Grit Pod on YouTube at the All Grit Pod, check out Chef Talks Lions, part of the Rock Down Podcast Network platform. He did a couple of things yesterday. One being talking about the running backs and how the naysayers got it wrong about Montgomery. Talking about David Montgomery coming to the Lions. He was garbage, wasn't going to do well, and a lot of Chicago fans saying that Montgomery was no good. Well, beg to differ. I think he had an excellent season. Broke 1,000 yards, first time ever doing that in his career. Probably do it again this year. Matter of fact, we'll probably have two backs to do it this year. And there was another video that he put up yesterday talking about DeAndre Swift. And will the Lions, regret the move with DeAndre Swift? Will he come back to bite? Will the hens come home to roost, so to speak? Will DeAndre Swift put it on the Detroit Lions? I'll tell you right now, without even watching the video, my opinion is no. I don't think that the Lions are going to have to worry about DeAndre Swift. I don't think that he has it in him. I've never believed in DeAndre Swift to really have that it factor. And I think that Deuce Staley kind of showed us that in Hard Knocks, that he didn't. He didn't finish. He didn't finish his runs forward. He didn't finish his runs with power. He was trying to avoid hits. And I think that he was scared to get hurt, and that was probably, a large part of his problem. But a couple of links there. Visit him later on or after the show ends. I'll start highlighting some more of those, but great work by Chef. Appreciate him and all the work that he puts in. So check him out. So let's get into the watch list now. What does each NFL or NFC North team need to watch out for as they head into training camp? This is a question that is very difficult to answer. But are there some issues that are still pending for some of these teams, even after the draft, and kind of what training camp is going to mean for them, I guess, is where I'm going with this. But really short segment here. I think that the most important question for the Bears is this. Can the Chicago Bears protect Caleb Williams? I think that that's the biggest question. The Bears feel confident in their projected starting offensive line. They got left tackle Braxton Jones, who was terrible last season. Left guard Tevin Jenkins. Their center Ryan Bates. Right guard Nate Davis. And right tackle Darnell Wright, who I believe they drafted him last year, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. But it's still a unit that will benefit from more time together. They're a very young unit. They haven't played a lot of games together. A lot of new guys this year. They didn't get it done, they didn't get it during the offseason program, meaning they didn't have much success this offseason already. There are two players, in my opinion, that they need to watch. And according to Adam Johns, the first is Bates, backup guard for the Buffalo Bills last season, who is competing with Coleman Shelton. The second is Nate Davis, who appeared in only 11 games last season after signing a 3-year, $30 million contract. So last year, the Chicago Bears had a terrible offensive line. And that's why I believe you see Justin Fields running around a lot more last season, or in any season, is because he had to escape the pocket. He had to get outside. The Bears running game was never that great with the guy I just mentioned, David Montgomery, because they couldn't open up holes. So is that going to change this year? I think that they're still a little bit raw and a little bit young. And I think that Caleb Williams being a rookie, man, let him get rattled and it's over. That's when he starts to make mistakes. That's when he starts to run and fumble. That's when he starts to throw interceptions. So if they have not done enough to protect Caleb Williams, they're going to have a tough year. And there's only so much you can do now. Like there's not a whole lot of options that they have now. You would have to make some incredible trades to get, an extremely good offensive line at this point in the season. But if I were to look at PFF offensive line ranks for 2024, let me pull it up here. So most improved offensive lines after the 2024 NFL draft, they're not listed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not listed at all because they haven't done anything. But as of May 29, 2024, the strengths and weaknesses and X factors of every starting lineup. Well, let me pull open the old Chicago Bears. I can't believe the Jets are listed as 4. The Lions are listed as 6.
What is with all this Jets love from everybody all offseason? I don't get it.
It's because of money, dude. They have to prop up Karen Rodgers.
Listen, Robert Saleh is going to be on the hot seat after week 4. I'm serious. I'm so glad the Detroit Lions passed on Robert Saleh and went with Dan Campbell. Really?
Yeah.
I am. He is to me, he's a spineless coach. He's letting Rodgers walk all over him. So they're saying that the X factor for 2024 for the Chicago Bears is their offensive tackle, Darnell Wright. And Chicago's offensive line has struggled last season, finishing 28th in the NFL in overall grades. 2023 first rounder Darnell Wright, so I did get that right. They did pick him up last year. Was the most durable player within that unit. Well, durability is great, but how did you play? He had a decent rookie season, according to PFF. Now, we know that PFF, we take it with a grain of salt some days. But a leap to stardom would be a huge boon for a team breaking in a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback. So I think that the Bears have a few issues here. New offensive coordinator. Obviously, that means the Lions or anybody else has not seen this offense. So who was it the other day? Broski Bear, is that his name? Yep. It was saying that the Lions' worst nightmare came this season, that we play the Chicago Bears late in the season. Is that what he was talking about? Yep, exactly.
Guess what, buddy? That helps us. Because now we're going to have all of that tape on your new offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. So with all that tape on your offensive coordinator, that means that we're going to be able to figure out what you guys like to do. It's hard to save, limited playbook, because you're going to install, chapter 1 this year. And that's a pretty big chapter. And I'm using that term loosely. I mean, it's you're probably installing this much, a foot thick of paper this year, but it's going to be a benefit to the Detroit Lions, but it is also going to be difficult for a lot of teams early to kind of figure out what they're doing, because it is new. But then again, you're talking a new offensive scheme with an offensive line that has to learn all new language.
in different protection sets and everything. It's with an offensive line that is terrible, absolutely terrible. 28th last year. I don't see anything changing this year. I think if this offensive line finishes better than top 22, I would be surprised. So I think that is the biggest question on the watch out list for the Chicago Bears. And I think that is going to absolutely ruin Caleb Williams' his first season, that he's going to get thrashed. I think he's going to take, I'll put this out there, early season predictions without watching training camp or injuries. I think that Caleb Williams is probably going to take top 5 most sacks in the NFL this year. Top 5.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that?
Just that the Bears are more of a bought team than a built team. And I've said this over and over again. So what their biggest thing this year is, how are they going to gel and how fast is it going to take? You know, because you might have the greatest players on earth, but if they can't play together and they're just out there for their bag and they're out there just to get the stats and just to get the Pro Bowls, and they don't care if you want me to run this play, I'm running this play, and freelancing and all that kind of stuff, how is it going to work?
Yeah. So J Mommy says Branch is going to be laying some serious wood on Caleb.
Heck yeah.
No pun intended, right? Brian Branch laying wood. I mean, it kind of fits, right? He's going to branch Caleb. That's funny. Tracy says he might not make it to week 3. J Mommy says depends on which Rodgers shows up, talking about the Jets and all the other issues with the Jets being ranked so highly. Chef Talks Lion says it's a prerequisite for being Rodgers' coach or GM. You are expected to, what does that say? Kowtow to him? Don't know what kowtow is.
I don't know. And
let's see.
The Bears, they better hope that Caleb Williams stays healthy all year, because they're putting all their eggs in one basket. This kid gets hurt, rolls an ankle, and he's gone for 3 weeks. What the heck are they going to do? Because who plays number 2?
You know, I don't even remember who their backup is right now. Brett Lighton says, I'm rooting for Rodgers, but against Love. Same with Fields and Caleb. So rooting for Fields, not for Caleb. I think that's kind of a fun approach there. Bo Booth says, got to hand it to Broski. He sticks to his guns, but he can't hit anything. But at least he tries. What else we got here? Tracy says, smash that like button. We have 108 people in here and only 35 likes. Smash the like button. Yeah. So here's the deal. If we want to give away, I know that I'm going to give away these helmets, but if I want to give away the helmets, and if you guys that are in this stream right now want to win a helmet, we got to get to 100 likes. We got to get there. I mean, I think we're doing a good job here. Yeah. I don't see why we wouldn't be. Smash it. Get it to 100 likes. We'll give away the helmet this morning before we get off, which would be before 10 a.m. and probably way before that, honestly. So Brent says 85 Bears had a great defense, but the offense was average. Chef Talks Lions. Who else is in here? Joe Dirty is the backup quarterback. That's got to be a joke, right? I don't even know who Joe Dirty is. It's got to be a joke. I must be missing something. All right. So anyway, we'll move on here. We'll move on to the Green Bay Packers. Biggest question I have for the Packers. How will the second cornerback spot shake out for them? So last season, the Lions jumped the Packers and took Brian Branch. Obviously, that's a nickel position / safety. But Branch could have played corner too. I mean, I think that he's good enough that he could play corner. Eric Stokes is starting, opposite of Jair Alexander, but the 2021 first-round pick, despite everyone singing his praises in May and June, has barely played over the last season and a half. So Carrington Valentine held his own as a 7th-round rookie in 2023, but do the Packers see him as a consistent starter material or just a worthy fill-in like last season? The Packers didn't draft a cornerback, so it'll be one of the first 2 to show the flashes. If they show flashes, they can also make it happen regularly. And again, I'm in agreement here with Matt Schneidman on the Green Bay Packers and how will the second outside cornerback. Really, it's the DB room overall for me. The DB room overall, if I were to look at the Packers, list here of what things to watch and look out for, let me wind back. And Eric, if you want to look up defensive passing stats for 2023 and where they were ranked. I think you can look it up for all teams and then just see where they ranked. So according to PFF, the biggest weakness in 2023 would be the middle of the defense. They're saying that the Packers excelled offensively last season. I would say that only happened in the last 8 games. The same can't be said for the defense, though, but they do have a new defensive coordinator. So again, new stuff being thrown at the Lions and all the rest of the teams in the NFL, but Jeff Hafley will be looking for improvement at the linebacker and safety positions in particular, but I don't agree with that. I agree with Matt Schneidman here that the cornerback position has been an issue for them. But their safety position last year ranked 24th, linebacker ranked 31st. Several new additions this year to both, though. I mean, will it help them? I don't know. They brought in safety Xavier McKinney, which is, he's a big-time free agent acquisition for the Packers. The former Giant led all safeties with a 91.2 coverage grade last season. So being in a single high alignment most of the year last year is what, or this year is what Jeff Hafley's defense is all about. So we'll probably see more single high safety, which in my opinion is going to give more opportunity to JMO to break free. If they don't double up the safeties over top and you're only putting single high out there, I think that gives the Lions an edge. So maybe we won't see that in those games. I can't imagine that we would, but hey, let them do it. I'm all for it. Do you have any stats yet on passing defense?
No, it's showing me like individual players. I'm trying to find.
Here, I'll look it up real quick.
Everybody.
So I guess from my opinion here, just knowing what the Packers were up against last year as far as the DB room, they didn't have the greatest of season. And let me see where they were ranked. So they're in the bottom third. Last season let up 3,800 yards passing and a completion percentage of like 65.4%. Here, I gotta blow this up a minute.
Yeah, but I thought Jair Alexander was the best DB in the world. That's what I hear from all the Packer fans.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not. So when you compare the Lions to the Packers, so the Lions were 63.1 completion percentage. The Packers were worse at 65.4. But the Lions let up 4,562 yards, whereas, the Packers only let up 3,800. Lions let up 28 touchdowns. Packers let up 21. The Lions QB rating overall was 91.5. Packers 94.7. As far as interceptions go, let me do the explosive plays here. Packers were in the bottom 10 or bottom 11, it looks like, of explosive plays allowed. So that's my question: is how is their DB room overall going to shape up this year? So I think that's the biggest question. Obviously, we jumped them again this year with Terry and Arnold. Supposedly, they were interested in Terry and Arnold. Lions do Lions things, man. That's all I can say. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to stay above the Packers each and every year. That's the team to beat in the NFC North, in my opinion. Every year, that's the team to beat. So you've already mentioned that, Jair Alexander was the best overall DB for the Packers. I don't know. I think that they have a lot to prove yet this year. I think that it's going to be a different season for the Packers. I don't think that they're going to have as good of a season as projected by some of the other, media or whatever. Next up, we'll talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Do you have anything you want to add to the Packers? And then let's check out the chat.
So mine's a little bit different. I think what the Packers need to worry about is this. So I'm going to take you back in my little time machine to week 4 of the 2023 season. And the Lions go into Lambeau and destroy the Packers by 14 and embarrass them in their own stadium with more fans that are Lions than Packer fans in their own stadium. After that game, when I got onto social media, Packer fans were destroying Jordan Love, saying he was a flop, saying they wish they would have got rid of the guy, saying that he wasn't worth the contract that they gave him for this year, and all of them wanting the backup quarterback to get a chance. And this is after week 4 last year. So he goes on to have a good 7 or 8 games at the end of the year, gets them into the playoffs, and wins a playoff game, right? So now the Packers are at this crossroads with Jordan Love. Jordan Love wants the bag. He wants $60 million per year. You watch. He wants the bag. He wants to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. And the Packers are going to do it. So what I think they need to watch this season is whether or not that bleeds into the season, whether it gets done before the season, and then is Jordan Love going to regress back to what he did in the beginning of last year? Because now everyone's got the tape on him. Now everyone knows what he can do. Everyone knows what he can't do. They know how to beat him. San Francisco just gave everyone the game plan on how to beat the Packers. So watch out. Here it comes. And I am waiting to see Jordan Love fall on his face. I don't think that one season is ever enough for anybody.
Nope. You know, I think that if you were to look and compare, quarterbacks, like just look at Jared Goff compared to Jordan Love. Well, Jordan Love's got one season. So go back and look at 2021, which was Jared Goff's rookie season with the Lions. And then he steadily improved in 2022 and 2023. That's going to be the benchmark for Love.
Yep.
Can he improve in the same or similar fashion? And I don't care what anyone's personal opinion is on Jared Goff. I mean, the stats don't lie. The numbers don't lie. Yep. He improved every year. Some metrics go up and down a little bit, but the overall consensus is he improved in big time every single year. So that's what we have to look forward to in Jared Goff this year, or Jordan Love this year. Is he going to improve in anything? I'm in agreement too. I think he's going to regress a little bit only because, we've got tape.
And if he does improve and he's better than last year, then hats off to Packers, hats off to Jordan Love. I was wrong. I'll admit it. But as of right now, I'm saying Jordan Love will not be as good as last year. He will not throw as many touchdowns as he did last year.
I mean, he had a last, half surge, but we got a Packers fan in here. Shout out to Packers fan 10. Yeah. Number one, he says Goff will take a step back because he got his new contract. So I think that, I'll just be honest, like contracts don't mean anything to Jared Goff. He got his contract and the Rams went to a Super Bowl, and then got his contract. And he never really fell off. His stats didn't really fall off. The team kind of fell apart, if you will. They suffered a lot of injuries. It wasn't the same team. Now, the team that Matthew Stafford took over wasn't the same team either. So I don't think his contract means anything. Jared Goff's been a highly paid quarterback for a while now. This is different in Detroit. The money is just part of it, right? It's just part of the equation of playing in the NFL. This is not a guy that is like, okay, I got paid. Now I can go relax. No, because that's just not how it works in Detroit. You won't play. They'll put Hendon Hooker in. They don't care how much he makes. They'll put Hendon in if they feel like that's happening with Jared Goff. So I don't believe in that. But what I will say is this: on cheeseheadtv.com, they talk about the cornerback room, and they felt like the offensive side of the ball is good. But among the positions on the roster, which can be marked kind of to be determined, would be none other than the cornerback room. And after Green Bay left the draft without spending a pick at the position until the 7th round, cornerback naturally becomes the focus of Packers fans' concerns when evaluating the state of the roster. The reason why is and the apprehension is really justified because it's a worst case scenario for them. The Packers cannot find consistency at corner and are bombarded through the air on a weekly basis. So they're still in trouble. They haven't addressed anything. Now, they do say that there's some untapped talent in the cornerback room and that maybe competition will be created as a way to get the best out of these players. But Jair Alexander has not been in the all-pro form that he once showed since 2022, and prior to that was 2020. So Jair Alexander is the guy that hinges on the Packers' success in that room. I just feel like there's too many questions and not enough answers right now. So that is why this is the watch out list for the Green Bay Packers and their secondary. And yes, you're right. Packers fan 10 or whatever your name was, Packers fan 10. You better worry about Jared Goff. I'm glad that he's on the front of your cerebral cortex there, because our wide receiver room is coming to Lambeau this year, and we're going to put up oodles and oodles and oodles of numbers. And we're going to be walking out of Lambeau with another big win. So I'd be worried about Jared Goff too, but he ain't going to lay down. Anything you want to add to the Packers here?
Nah, I'm good. They don't live in my brain.
Yeah. Rent free. Lions live now rent free in the NFC North.
All that on it. Listen, here's something I have to address. Me as a Lions fan, I do not go on Packers podcasts. I do not search out a Packer fan's personal Facebook page or personal X page and post stuff on their posts or comment on their posts when if let's say Packer fan 10 has a Facebook page, I don't go to his Facebook page and find something that he put about Jordan Love on his Facebook page and comment it, oh, Jordan Love is trash. I don't do that. I don't go on his podcast on YouTube and say, oh, Jordan Love sucks. I don't do that. But for some reason, Bears fans, Vikings fans, and especially Packer fans do that to me. I don't get it. And I'm a social media little darling or whatever you want to call it. And all my top fans seem to be from other teams because they just want to crap talk with me all the time. And they just want to say how I'm wrong all the time on anything I post on social media. So I just had to rant for a second and say, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I know they just want to trash talk, but why do you need to come follow me on my personal stuff and put in stuff about your team that has nothing to do with what I'm posting about my team?
Well, you know that social media put together something called the block button.
Oh yeah, I know, but I monetize, so it helps me all the comments, likes, reactions, shares. So I don't care. They're helping me make money.
There you go. So that's the good part of it, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with having fun debates and
no. I'm just saying, as a Lions fan, I don't search out a Vikings podcast so I can go talk crap on their podcast in the comments. I don't do that.
Well, I tell you what, they're all welcomed in here, especially when we do some of the breakdowns this year. I would love to get, matter of fact, some good Packers fans, Vikings fans, and Bears fans on the stream to do some of these pregame breakdowns during the season. So I think our pregame breakdowns are probably going to happen on Wednesdays. I think Wednesdays or Tuesdays. Last year I did it on Fridays, but I think I want to do it a little bit earlier in the week. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I just have to worry about the Thursday games, and I'm trying to stick to a schedule so you know what night every week the pregame breakdown is going to be done. Last year, man, I was hitting it pretty good as far as, you know, calling the shots. each week and on the breakdown. And we would go through and break down all the defense and the offense. The Chiefs game took me 2 rounds, 4 hours to get through the whole breakdown because it was the opening game. You know, I had to really put the work in for that one because I didn't want to be wrong. And I was right. Lions are going to win. Even though I thought that was going to be a game that they should have lost because just based on, you know, previous stuff. But not anymore. Not anymore. We are the favorites.
Yeah.
To roll in and win no matter where we go. So Minnesota Vikings on the watch out list.
Mhm.
This one I think is very valid. And the Vikings, they're in a season of change, right? I mean, they're going to be going through a lot. They've got a new quarterback that they're trying to, you know, bring up. They've already said that JJ McCarthy is not the starter, which was probably a good thing to establish before training camp. That way they know who the leader of the team is. And, you know, JJ McCarthy, I guarantee you, is not going to rest on that. He's going to try to win that job in camp. I don't think he's going to get it, though. I think that if the Vikings are smart, which I don't know if they are, if they aren't, I don't know their GM good enough. But if they're smart, they will let JJ sit for a year, no matter what happens this season. Now, there's 2 ways to look at that. You're purposely tanking by putting in a backup that you're naming as a starter. Maybe not. But if you are purposely tanking, but you're still putting, you know, everything you got into every game and you just happen to lose a bunch of games, now you got high draft picks next year. And you match that up with JJ McCarthy potentially getting the start next year, and you're going to add more talent around him with high draft picks. So could that be part of their plan that, hey, look, we're just not going to do much in 2024. We're going to focus on 2025. Maybe. I don't see the Packers doing that. I think that the Packers, they're trying to win every single year. Matter of fact, when my phone rang on Monday, it said Titletown. And I was like, who in the heck is Titletown? It was Green Bay Packers front office calling me. And I didn't really put 2 and 2 together that they call Lambeau, Titletown apparently, or I'm sorry, Green Bay Titletown. I mean, they've done well, but I think that stops now. The Lions are going to be taken over, I think, for many, many years. But let's talk about the Vikings here. Here's the question. Who is this team's number 3 wide receiver? I think it's a very valid question here. Justin Jefferson obviously is number 1. But between number 2 and 3 here, there's some holes. Does it really matter this year? Probably not. Unless JJ McCarthy's a starter, I don't think it really matters. But is it Brandon Powell at number 3? Former Detroit Lion. You guys remember Brandon Powell? I actually like that kid. Matter of fact, in one of my social media groups, his cousin was in that group. And we used to have conversations about Brandon Powell all the time.
Didn't he go play for San Diego for a while?
I don't remember, but I remember that, you know, a few years ago when he was a Detroit Lion.
Yeah.
I really liked what the kid had, and he's actually turned out to be a pretty decent player, you know, from special teams aspect. But is he the number 3? Can Jalen Naylor stay healthy enough to play the role? If not, if it's not those 2 guys, then who? This roster hole kind of surfaced once KJ Osborne signed with the Patriots in free agency. The Vikings staff really loves Powell, apparently, which is understandable. He's reliable, he's tough, he's shifty, but he's also 5'8", 181. Not necessarily number 2 material or number 3 material. He's kind of the Khalif Raymond of the Vikings. Punt, kick returner. But if he is the wide receiver 3, who also can return kicks, right? You've got Trent Sherfield as another option. But he didn't really blow the staff away in OTAs, I guess, is the issue with Sherfield. So there's some free agent options like Hunter Renfrow, but Renfrow is not really much of a downfield blocker. The Vikings do like their wide receivers to be good blockers as well. And does Coach Kevin O'Connell really want a receiver who can help in the run game? I think that's the question that they're going to have to answer. And that's probably going to be their number 3 wide receiver. Someone who's definitely going to be in there as a blocker. not necessarily someone that's going to get targeted a whole lot. So that might be a hard individual to find at this point. So I'm in agreement with Alec Lewis here that the Vikings have some unanswered questions here in the wide receiver room. We know who Justin Jefferson is, but now, going up against the Vikings this year, I think where this fits for the Detroit Lions is, man, our cornerback or our DB room overall is going to be able to shut down Jefferson this year. We've done it before, and I think we're going to do it again. I think that now that we have the defensive line that we do, by the way, ranked top 4 in the NFL right now, and the DB room, which is definitely going to be up in the top 15, we might be able to shut down both. Like, this is turning out to be a pretty stellar team the Detroit Lions have put together. All of these other teams in the NFC North have to figure out a way to laterally adjust to what the Lions are doing. Not just the NFL, but they have to hone in on their division first. That's the way to the playoffs. You got to win the division, which is something new for the Detroit Lions as of last year, but I don't think it's going to be something that we failed to do every year. So that's the question. And any questions or statements, by you on the Vikings for this year?
Yeah. So I think the Vikings, one of their big things is also this. TJ Hawkinson, in the game against the Lions, blew his ACL, and it's going to take a while for him to get back on the field. He is not going to be ready for the start of the season. He is most likely going to start on the PUP list, and who is behind him? So I'm looking at their depth chart, and they have Josh Oliver as their second tight end, Robert Tonyan, the former Packer, and then they have Johnny Munt. And I just don't know if any of them can step up for the first 5 or 6 weeks and be that electric type of tight end that Hawkinson and Laporta and Kelsey and all these guys are. So that might be something to add onto their depth at wide receiver. So if they're weak at wide receiver and they're weak at tight end, boy, are they in trouble with a backup Sam Darnold as a starter. That could really, really tank the beginning of their season. Even though they have Jefferson and Addison, what do they have after that? Because they don't have a running back that scares me. They got Jones from the Packers, but he's never really scared me as a Lions backer. And yeah, I think the Vikings are kind of in trouble a little bit this year. Some of the Vikings fans think they're going to have this amazing season this year, but I am friends with a lot of people from Minnesota, and I had a lot of Vikings games at their stadium. And when they were at, what is it? Not TC Bank. That's what they're at now. When they were at the University of Minnesota playing, I went to a couple games there, and the fans are always the best. They're awesome with me. When you walk through their tailgate pre-game, they're always like, hey man, come on over, play some this and that with us, and they want you to be in their videos and stuff. And they're always super cool. I've never ran into basically any bad Viking fan. So I've always had a special place in my heart for the Vikings guys. And in the agate and the rock world, I deal with tons of people from Minnesota, and they're all Minnesota fans. Like, they all love the Minnesota Vikings. So I've always had really great experiences with the Vikings, and I don't want to dump on them. I'm not trying to slander them in any way, but I feel that this year, who's going to run the ball and who's going to catch the ball, who's going to throw the ball, the offense is definitely going to be lackluster, I think, this year. I think their defense will be okay, but it's going to be more of an offensive lacking this year more than anything.
So here's a question. When you are in a live stream, you can't go and comment on the video, right? I think that's the issue. You can't comment on a video. You have to wait until the live stream is done.
No.
Yeah, you can do live stream, you can do chat, but you can't do comment.
Let me see.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing anyway, or at least I can't enter my own. I guess someone tell me if you can leave an actual comment on the live stream that's not in the live chat. So here's the rules for the giveaway. You guys have to go to the live stream and comment in the actual comment section, not just the live stream. So I'll open up the giveaway. So everyone that's in the live stream right now, once this live stream ends, go back to it and just comment in there. And everybody that comments before 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that gives you an hour and 13 minutes. The live stream is going to end here in 13 minutes, roughly, or by 10 o'clock. So between 10 and 11, everyone that comes back and comments, I'm going to go ahead and put your name in the wheel of names. And then I'm going to do a video today and spin it and select that individual. If you win, obviously you'll have to send me an email and then send me your address, and then we will ship out a helmet. So I'll got to go pick them up at Pro Sports Zone. Maybe I'll do that today if I get some time. It's like a 3-hour drive there and back. So I'll spend 6 hours in the car today. But hey, I got to do it. Got to do it anyway. So if you guys want to win a Detroit Lions mini helmet, if you don't know what a mini helmet is, they're about this size of my hand. This is not one, obviously, I'm giving away, but we'll be doing. There's like 3 or 4 different versions. We've got the new helmet that they did last year, which is retired. We have the old version, like the 1990s version or whatever helmet for Chris Spielman. We got a few of those. Traditional helmet. We've got a mixture of those. So I think there's like 3 or 4 different types. Penei Sewell, Chris Spielman. You won't know what you're getting. What I send to you is what you'll get. So either Chris Spielman or Penei Sewell. Signed certificate of authenticity. They're valued at about $150 a piece. So I don't take this stuff lightly. I want to make sure that we do some things that help the channel, which is liking the stream and then going in and commenting on the channel when the live stream ends. And as long as people do that, you'll get an opportunity to win $150 helmet signed potentially by one of your favorite Detroit Lions players of new or old. So that's the rules. And I appreciate you guys for helping out with all that today. So where I'm going to end today is with the Detroit Lions, of course, right? Got to end with the Detroit Lions. What are the Detroit Lions' biggest questions? So the Lions were determined to build really upon last season's march to the NFC Championship game, but ultimately failed, right? In the last half of the game. Detroit locked up offensive cornerstones, and they did that by extending Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell. So the offense looks great, right? We've got big time playmakers on that side of the ball. But the main question to me was, did they do enough to elevate their defense in 2024? Did they do enough? The Lions entered the 2024 season as the defending NFC North champions for the first time ever. But sustaining their success is just challenging for any team, but something that we haven't witnessed in Detroit in a long time. One major concern is ensuring that their revamped defense, especially the secondary, performs well. Additionally, maintaining the health and effectiveness of their key defensive players is also critical as they aim to repeat as division champions. So for all of you other NFC North foes in the stream today, we are coming back to take the NFC North back-to-back seasons. They also hit on free agent signings and a key trade in the offseason. The Lions also had one of the most productive drafts in 2024, followed by probably the best draft in 2023. And they were led by 2 very talented defensive backs and a promising 6th-round selection for the defensive line. The Lions made a series of moves to address a defense that collapsed in the NFC Championship game. They finished. The last season's defense allowed the most explosive plays, over 20 plus yards, with 69. They gave up the longest passing TD of the season, 92 yards to CeeDee Lamb. Almost choked there saying his name. The 3rd most points per game 23.2 in the regular season compared to all of the other playoff teams in 2023. They gave up the fourth most passing yards, 4,562, sixth most passing TDs, and finished middle of the pack with 16 interceptions. So I think my question is relevant. Did they do enough to revamp the defense in 2024? Clearly, the defensive deficiencies were on display throughout the season. They needed to address a myriad of issues. So what did they do? The Lions traded for Carlton Davis, giving up a third-round pick. They signed Amik Robertson, and then they drafted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw in the first 2 rounds. All cornerbacks, all D-backs, which from my viewpoint was the exact way this team needed to get better during my season wrap-up show just after the Super Bowl. Secondly, I mentioned that the Lions needed to get stronger and more dynamic in the middle of the defense. They went out and signed one of the best defensive tackles against the run, DJ Reader. And then they also added an edge rusher, Marcus Davenport, to help strengthen their defensive line in free agency and help Aiden Hutchinson from the other side of the field. Then they did something that I called a breakout player for 2024, Mekhi Wingo. They found him in the 6th round. In my opinion, was a huge steal for this team and a player that could see some time earlier as opposed to later. He has big time positional flex in the interior of this defensive line. The hope is, big hope here, that these pieces won't take very long to integrate and that Aaron Glenn will finally have the pieces to run his aggressive man-heavy defense. We tried to do man-heavy last year and we just got slapped in the face. Our cornerback room, I mean, they couldn't hang with a college wide receiver core, it seemed like at times. I don't think that's the case this year. But Davenport, 2018 first-round pick from the Saints. He was drafted when Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn were both assistants in Sean Payton's staff. The Lions talk so much about what, Eric? Needing to be familiar, needing to know who these players are. So it makes sense that they'd go after a guy that they knew pretty well, someone that they brought in, for his very first day in the NFL. The Lions also signed former Saints and Vikings edge Marcus Davenport on a 1-year deal, base of $6.5 million with a maximum of $10.5 million. In all fairness, it's a low risk deal, but one that feels kind of like a Brad Holmes type of move, right? I mean, giving the Lions pass rush a help on a discount double check, right? Discount Karen Rodgers, discount double check. Remember that? Davenport was number 61 on the Athletics ranking of the top 150 free agents in 2024. I did not know that until yesterday when I put this together. Carlton Davis, 2nd round pick in 2018, just turned 27 in December. He's still very much in the prime of his career. Injuries have been a big concern, as he's never played more than 14 regular season games in 6 seasons. He's missed 23 games in his career. When healthy, he is one of the better corners in this league. Carlton Davis in man coverage last year per PFF had a 60% completion percentage allowed, pretty darn good. No TDs allowed in man coverage. A 75.1 passer rating when targeted, pretty darn good. 68.8 PFF grade, better than average. So the question is, did the Lions do enough to solidify the defense and elevate it to be able to have a more impactful opportunity at going deeper into the playoffs and potentially making the Super Bowl? And I'm unequivocally going to say they did. And here's one reason why. A lot of people have been so downtrodden on Marcus Davenport. This dude is a mammoth man. Extremely intelligent as a player. And I don't care about the fact that he was injured last year, didn't get much playing time with the Vikings. When he was with the Saints and playing well, he was one of the better edge rushers in the league. Stats be damned. Don't care about them. I don't care about the stats right now. I care about the eye test. To Chef's point, you got to look at the eye test too. So when we don't have stats to back up what we're thinking about a player, you have to look at the tape. And I've spent some time this week looking at some of his highlights. This guy can move. He can play. He's smart. He's agile. He knows what he's doing. And for that reason, I think that Davenport's going to have a pretty damn good breakout season. Now, that could come back to bite. He may get injured, may not play. I think that if Davenport stays healthy this year, this guy's probably going to eat quite a bit. Shout out to Davenport's Dong from the Bulge Army. 199 Super Chat says he is a mammoth man. He is. So, yep, countdown. Tracy says 4 minutes to go. Let's get 70 likes or more. Come on, people. Let's push it.
And I do have to fly right at 10 o'clock because my shop opens right at 10. So I do have to fly in the next 3 minutes.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I guess to kind of wrap up this point here on the Lions, they definitely elevated their defense. Go ahead and give your comments, Eric, and then you can do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I think our biggest thing is the defense overall. We have this new half of the defensive line. We have all these new DBs. Are we going to put Brian Branch at safety? Are we going to put him in the nickel? Where are we going to put everyone? We still need to work everything out, figure out who the starter is going to be, who the rotational pieces are going to be. And to me, that's the biggest question on the Lions right now. What is this defense going to do? Does it have the potential to be top 15, top 10? Sure, it has the potential, but let's see if they can do it. And the reason I think they can do it, I think they can get to a top 15 or better, is that most of these players have a connection to someone on the Lions. Like Terrion Arnold, he played with Brian Branch at Alabama. They're already in sync with each other. They know each other. There's history there. They don't have to learn each other's names to start. They don't have to. I'm serious. You know, when someone comes in, when they're drafted, they have to learn everybody on the team. They don't even know their teammates' names. They don't know the name of the quarterback or the name of the running back. And, you know, you have to learn everyone. And when you come into a situation where you already know a bunch of people, man, that makes things so much easier. He knows Jamo on the offensive side. He played with Jamo. He knows Brian Branch. He played with Brian Branch. So us getting all these Alabama guys, we're Alabama East. I kind of love it. And it's just going to help solidify this defense that much faster. Same thing. You brought in Davenport. He was a guy that played with AG with the Saints, and the Saints are the ones that drafted him. And if I remember correctly, he was drafted in the first round. So there was something there. There was some talent there. There was something they saw coming out of college that they took him that high. And maybe AG knows what it's all about. And Campbell was there with the Saints when he was drafted. So there's some familiar. Yeah, I can't even say that today. Yeah, he's familiar with the situation and the coaches, the coaching staff. He knows what they expect. He knows what they want out of him. So it's not like these guys are coming into a situation where everything's different. Everyone's new. You don't know anyone's name. There's no one here that you can lean on. There's someone for everyone to lean on in that defense. The only ones I would say that really don't have any amount of being in a familiar situation are people like Betts from Canada and Manu from Canada. So they're coming into a total foreign situation where they really don't know anyone. They don't know the coaches. They don't know the style of play, and they're having to relearn everything. I think Betts will probably have a little bit easier of a time than Manu. Manu's going to take a couple years to season probably. He may surprise us. Maybe he gets up to speed really fast in the preseason, but I guarantee you're going to see a lot of Manu and a lot of Betts in the preseason.
Yeah, I hope so. And thanks for joining, Eric. I appreciate you as always on the Rise and Grind morning show. I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I do
in just a few minutes. So, all right, buddy, we'll see you.
Well, rock on, everybody. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.
All right. So to kind of finish up my point here, Detroit Lions are now ranked 4th by PFF for defensive line. And this is what they had to say. They said for a while, the Lions had Aiden Hutchinson and not much else along the defensive line. Now they will deploy DJ Reader with an improved Aleem McNeil along with Marcus Davenport on his latest Prove It deal. This is unquestionably the best group the Detroit Lions have had around Aiden Hutchinson, who himself racked up 101 quarterback pressures last season, 11 and a half sacks on his way to 91.2 PFF pass rushing grade. So top defensive line in the league. Can the Lions do it? Look, we were the number 2 rushing defense last year. There is no reason why we shouldn't finish somewhere near there again. I would be willing to let up a little bit on the run game, be it a top 5 run defense, as long as we're able to accentuate some of the other areas of concern that were from last year. Like we need more guys getting pressure. We need more guys getting sacks from multiple areas. But the biggest thing that's changed this year, and the reason why I feel like our defense has elevated, and we're going to have to still see it, right? Right now, it's just paper. On paper, man, this is a phenomenal defense. But I said the same thing last year about the offense. On paper, incredible offense. Where that changed is what they did in training camp. And from training camp, what they do throughout the preseason. And then they hit the ground running last year, week 1, and never really looked back. They had a couple of bumps in the road, but they rose up above it the next week. The defense can do the same thing this year. There's a bigger emphasis this year on the defense because last year they built the offense. The offense knows what they need to do. The defense is now going to go through that same phase. They've put a ton of assets into it. It's now time to take that next step forward. And I think the Lions are going to do that. The defensive line is going to benefit from a DB room that can actually stop the pass. A DB room that can be held accountable. A DB room that has multiple key players now available to make plays. Ifeatu Melifonwu coming into his 4th season, in which many of the media analysts around the NFL said it was a mistake. Big reach, developmental guy. Well, he's kind of shown us now why. Now he suffered through injury. He finally played a good season last year. He's got to rise above that this year. Kirby Joseph, he's started to come alive the last 2 seasons. He too has to have his best season this year. Brian Branch, there is no doubt that he could end up being one of the best DBs in the entire league in a very short order. So just those 3 guys alone would make you feel comfortable, right? And now you're adding guys like Ennis Rakestraw, Terrion Arnold, Carlton Banks, Amik Robertson. Terrion Arnold is the cream of the crop here. I had doubts and questions about Quinton Mitchell. We'll see what happens with Quinton Mitchell. I haven't heard whole lot in the offseason yet, but we'll see what happens. I think that the competition is between him and Terrion Arnold to see who rises up to be the best DB this year as a rookie. Now there's going to be another guy probably in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round that also will rise up. And I might comment on him later, but once I figure out who that player is going to be, there's going to be somebody that's going to rise up and compete with those guys. At the end of the day, they also added Sion Vaki, a multi-way player, someone that can play safety and running back, someone that's going to be a core special teamer. The Lions have done enough. It's now time to put the work in. To echo the same words of Calvin Johnson, where we began this morning, we're going to end with, it's time to put the work in. And the Lions can do it. The Lions are on their way to winning the NFC North here in 2024. They're on their way to having a much improved defense here in 2024. And that is going to be the reason why they win and the reason why they have a better season than they did last year. I'm not saying that they have to go to the Super Bowl. It's a must to go to the Super Bowl. But I do believe that there is a real possibility. I've been saying that the 4th season was the season, and I do believe that there is now a better opportunity for the Lions to go to the Super Bowl in this year because of this defense. Last year, we survived because of the offense, putting up points. Imagine what's going to happen now when this defense can go in and get a stop. This defense can go in and get a turnover and give the offense even more opportunity to score points. We're not going to win by just 3 or 7. We're probably going to win by 10 or more in a lot of games. I hope that reigns true. But this defense has done enough to elevate. All right, you guys have been great this morning. Thank you for joining the Rocked On Detroit Lions and Rise and Grind Morning Show, both part of Rocked On Podcast Network. If you like this content, please do us a favor, like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notifications. The only way you're going to know for the next giveaway, which happens at 5,500 subscribers. Number one, you guys got to share it. You got to get people active, help them join, subscribe to the channel, and then we'll be giving away more helmets. So the only way you're going to know next time that there is an actual giveaway is if you have notifications turned on, because it is going to be a true pop-up live. And if you don't have notifications turned on, you will miss it. And we're giving away 24 helmets this year. Tons of grab bags. I've got 100 grill covers that I'm trying to give away. So lots of stuff. And I appreciate you guys as always. So go One Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see you in the next one tomorrow morning. You guys have a great day. See you back here at 7 p.m. tonight for Off the Cuff. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.